Hello, everybody. I want to welcome you to Mountain Aromatics, and I think I'm going to do some live videos today on different subjects. So just stay tuned because each one will be completely different. But today I wanted to go over fixatives, which is such a huge task and can be very overwhelming. It could be an entire book. It could be, at least 10 hours. It could be a 10-hour class. It's just, there's a lot to fixatives. But I've had a few questions. Well, it's a question that I just hear almost on a daily basis with fixatives. So they come in two parts, the question with fixatives, and they're kind of two completely separate questions. One is fixatives for top notes, fixatives for citruses, your whatever types of fixatives and whatever types of top notes. Basically, I hear my top notes in my fragrance doesn't last very long. How do I make that last longer? Then the other part, and I will go over both of these today, the other part that I hear is my entire fragrance doesn't last very long. What fixatives can I use to make my fragrance, my entire fragrance, last longer? So those are the two different types of fixatives, and making the fragrance last longer and making the top notes, which are mostly your citruses, last longer. So I'm going to start with the citruses and what you can do. I'm going to just talk about it and then what you can do to make those last longer. First off, I will just say, I don't necessarily see any real trick or anything like that that is, oh, well, here's the answer. Here's what you do. It's more complicated than that, especially when we're talking the citruses and how to make the lemon last longer, or the that type of thing. So let me just tackle that, and I have a few things here that will be helpful that I'll go over. As typically you're talking about grapefruit, citrus, the citruses like lemon, lime, bergamot, orange, those that are shorter life. They're essential oils, they're citruses, they're not going to last long. That's just the nature of them. And that's why they're called a top note. They're called a top note for a reason, because top notes typically don't last a very long time. If you get a lemon essential oil that lasts more than an hour, you're doing pretty good. That's pretty lucky. Hi, Kimberly. Hi, Jasmine. Good to see you. Good to see you guys. I know there's more people in here than that, but hello to you all. So this is my other dog, not mine, it's my roommate's, but we kind of have him together and that kind of thing. So this is Sydney, and most of you have seen him before many times. So let's just start with bergamot, okay, because I want to tackle one at a time. It'll make it more simple and easier to, hello Frag Fanatic, for you guys to understand. So with bergamot, there are a few things. I think one thing I will just say about bergamot, because it drives me crazy, is that if you have bergamot essential oil, there is bergamot essential oil that has been decolorized that takes away the skin sensitizing properties away. in that process, it's taking away a lot of the beautiful, complex aroma with it. Just so you know, and which is fine. And if that's what you would like to use, because in your fragrance, the people are always putting it on their skin, then so be it. However, if you get a bergamot that is really high end, very, very fresh, and that's actually what I mean by high end, very, very fresh, it is going to have a green tint. There's going to be some green in it. If you have a clear bergamot that is where it is not free of the sensitizing molecule, and it is just clear, that's not a good sign. And I promise you can get the two and smell the fresh and the not so fresh. And you're going to see a difference and you're going to smell a difference. The fresh is going to be completely like you're in the field at the bergamot trees and scratching the fruit and then smelling it with the essential oils on the surface, like you would a lemon or whatever. That's how your fresh is going to smell. And it could be very, let me just get it. I'm gonna just get it. Give me just 1 second. I didn't know I was gonna go into this, but I am. So give me just a second. Here we go. Okay, so I have a bergamot and it is clear and it says it's cold pressed. That's the other thing. So cold pressed, and this has to do with any of your citruses. So this goes for your lemon, whatever, blah, blah, blah. If you have a cold pressed, it is going to be more complex. It's going to be more sensitizing on the skin. So when you put it on, meaning when you go in the sun and get sun exposure where that is, then that can turn red, not just putting it on your skin and staying inside. No, that's not what happens. Anyway, so cold pressed and steam distillation, the outcome is different. Because of the steam, which is heat, that distillation, it's changing it some, and not all of the aroma molecules make it up into that distillation and go over and make it into the essential oil. But in cold press, it's simply pressed and there's no heat. And so it's completely more complex. So I'm going to show you, this is how green, it doesn't even show very green here. There we go. This kind of shows a green, how green this is. It's very green. And my other is just simply clear. And this is so fresh, so complex. It's amazing. Anyway, with that, what you can do, how do I make it last longer, which is where we are. So there's Neo Bergamot Forte. It is 12 hours on the test strip. Of course, it's still a top note, but it is 12 hours, and it is similar. It is not exactly mimicking the bergamot. So use it with the bergamot as a support and as an extender. So that's what I mean by extending the life of that aroma. Is it's not going to be necessarily something that's the exact same thing in a quote chemical. Never mind with that. It's going to get too complicated. Anyway, let me give you another one. So this is a top note at 4 hours. It is dihydromercenol acetate. Dihydromercenol acetate. So this is very citrusy and has some bergamot with it. Hey, Amy. I love you. I'm thinking of you. You are on my mind all day today. Lime and lavender is in here as well. So this is a great extender for when you're using lime, lavender, bergamot, and just maybe all the citruses. And again, it's only 4 hours, but you can use this up to 30%. And it's just a helper, a support that will support and kind of give the illusion of that aroma still hanging around. Now I'll give you the typical one, and that is dihydromercenol. This is 16 hours. However, and all of you probably, if you're already watching this, you may already know, but it is the aroma chemical used in almost every male fragrance for the last 30 years. Literally, this is in all your typical male fragrances. This is that powerful, fresh, lime-like, citrusy. If you use it with your lemon, if you use it with your lime, even orange, all of that kind of stuff, it will make it last longer. It will give it support, and it will give the illusion that you are still smelling that lemon. You're still smelling that lime. So this is obviously not lime essential oil or lemon essential oil. It's dihydromercenol, but it gives you that illusion that it's still going on because it's mixing. You use this with your lime essential oil or lemon essential oil, whatever you're doing in your formula. So this will be a support and a lender of extending your citrus aromas. Again, there's no magic formula to this. Amy, this whole video, I'm doing this because of you. Like, this is what you and I had talked about, so that's why I'm doing this one. So another one for an extender, just to tell you, so we're splitting this up into one, the longevity and an extension of citruses, top notes, making them last longer, and then making your whole entire fragrance lasting longer. And that's a whole nother subject, and we'll get to that in just a few. So back to this with citruses. Another one is going to be tetrahydromercenol, all one word. Yeah, it's all one word. And if you're getting your stuff from creatingperfume.com, if you miss a letter, you're not going to find it. So maybe just type in citruses, or the word like outdoor, something like that, and all the outdoor aromas will pop up, and this will pop up. So just do things like that can help you if you don't know how to spell it exactly. But this is tetrahydromercenol. Again, this is an extender. This one lasts 6 hours. Of course, it's a top note, but you can use up to 30%. Again, it's fresh and floral. To me, this is a deeper and a little bit more complex than your dihydromercenol. This, it does give an outdoor aroma, and there is a tiny bit of floral in here. So this is a bridge builder when you have an aroma or a formula where you have a lot of citruses and you have some floral notes as well. This is going to bridge those two together and help those two blend together and be really cohesive. So that's another thing that this will do. This will kind of help with your citruses last, give them some complexity, and help bridge if you kind of feel like there's a gap between or some space between your citruses and your florals. This tetrahydromercenol will kind of bridge those two together and weave those two together in a more cohesive manner. And it will give that, has a kind of an airy effect, a light, airy outdoor effect as well. So this one kind of does a lot of stuff. There you go. The next one I'm going to, yeah, let's stay on. So this one's more of a generic. It's L-limonene 65. You'll know that L-limonene is in all of your citruses. It's a huge component of your citruses. This one's really, really bright, really almost like your dihydromercenol. It's 4 hours. You can use just up to 8% in your formula. It is very, very refreshing, very, very light. This would pair really, really well with your dihydromercenol. Really a good pair together where you look, if you use the dihydromercenol and you put 10% of your formula is dihydromercenol, it is going to smell like the vast majority of the things you get in the department stores. It just is. I'm just telling you, this is what they use. So if you like that, that's fine. Use that. You can use a lot of it. You can use up to 70% of that. It's crazy. And there are colognes out there that do. But back to this one, the L-limonene is more super friendly with your lemon, any of the citruses. This one is super friendly with any of them. It's a very, very refreshing top note. So it doesn't smell just like lemon or just like lime. It smells very citrusy. If anything, it has a tiny bit more of an orange aroma than it does anything, but it still will blend well with all of them and help extend and push forward your citrus aroma. So the next two are going to be in your grapefruit. And I'll do the best first, and that is Pampliflor. It's a citrusy, but more of grapefruit. It's a very, very clean grapefruit. It is, this one's way more complicated, okay? So this isn't just, oh, if you have grapefruit and you need grapefruit, just use this. No, because this one is 350 hours. It's a middle note. So this is a heavier molecule. Even though it goes with the citruses, it does more than just grapefruit. So, I've talked about this before, where when you're using a vetiver, grapefruit and vetiver just are married. They're great together. Well, you're going to get some of that rhubarb. This one's complicated. Rhubarb, floral, vetiver, green, grapefruit, some citrus. And so when we're talking vetiver, are you getting vetiver in here? Yeah, so that's how it's a middle note. It's a very heavy molecule. Pampliflor, thank you, Amy. And yes, you will get the citrus. You will get, okay, let me explain it this way. If you got your grapefruit essential oil, 100%, and you put some drops in your vial, I'll hold it up against my shirt since my shirt is black. And then you added a little bit of the Pampliflor to your 100% grapefruit essential oil. It is going to be more complex and definitely not just your grapefruit. It will help and support that grapefruit, and it will make that grapefruit last longer, that aroma. It will. So of all the citruses, the best one, the best extender is going to be with your grapefruit aroma, and it is Pampliflor. Just know that it's a little, the rhubarb is a little tart, where your grapefruit is going to be a little bit more, it's going to have that bitter note in there as well. Well, this has that. It has the tartness. It is still fresh though, but there's a complexity of where you can absolutely tell that, wow, there's something connecting to vetiver with this. And it does. It's like a brother sister vetiver pampliflor. It's yeah. So this also goes with jasmine as well. Goes really, really well with jasmine. So that is my take on how to extend your citruses. One other thing, because I know I can hear people, wait, you forgot another one. What's up, Corey? The other one is Glucam P20, and that is called also citrus fixative or a perfume fixative. It's just like if you go to creatingperfume.com and you type in perfume fixative, and it's the material called perfume fixative, it is Glucam P20. What you need to know about that, because it is very important, is that yes, it can be a perfume fixative for whatever formula that you have. However, I think, my opinion, I think it's best to use it with citruses. When you do, you need to use it in a trace amount. So if you have a formula that fits in here, an entire formula fits in here and it just comes up to here, you need to make like a 10% of your perfumer's fixative and just add a drop in here. Really, why? Because it is going to flatten your, it will flatten your whole entire fragrance, but it will flatten your top citrusy notes that are supposed to be light, fresh, that kind of stuff, effervescent. It will flatten all of that stuff if you use too much. And I mean, you need to use a trace amount. The less is better, and it will help, but just know less is better with that. So I just needed to let you know about that. Just less is more. I do not use Glucam P20. I don't use it. I used it when I first started, and I just don't use it anymore. I use these. I get specific with, okay, so I have lemon and I have grapefruit in my formula. Okay, I'm going to use a limonene and the pampliflor. And that's the route that I go. So that is your citruses, which I could spend 4 more hours on that. So we're going to move to the longevity of your entire fragrance, which is a whole nother huge thing. But some things that can be helpful are, and this is where it's complicated, because it's like, well, the fixatives that you use, because a lot of materials are fixatives, but if you have a bright floral formula, there's certain fixatives you don't want to use. For example, if you had a really bright floral formula, I personally would not choose patchouli dark. I just wouldn't do that. It's going to change the aroma a little too much. Yes, it's a fixative, so it will help it last longer, but it will change the aroma too much. So there's some other, so you're going to have to look at your formula, what you're creating, what you're doing, and then choose your fixatives from that. For example, if you have a formula and it's pretty warm and you want it to be warm, and it is warm because of what you put in it. Let's say you put Peru Balsam Olfac, then you could use a patchouli dark, and it has some warmth to it. So that's a perfectly fine thing to use as a fixative. Another would be like Timber Silk. That would be a great one. Herculean D. It's just learning what materials are fixatives and their properties. What do you mean? Let me give you an example. Linalool cinnamate. You guys know, if you know me, you know I talk about it all the time. That is a great, great fixative. However, with that fixative, it is going to give sweetness to that formula. So when you are looking to sweeten your formula, that's a great one to put a couple of drops in there, because it's going to do two things. It's going to sweeten and it's going to be a fixative. Well, I'll give you another fixative when you have a warm formula. Vanillin. Vanillin is a fixative. So that's another thing to think about when you're formulating. But that's another thing to think about when you're not going to use vanilla as a fixative necessarily, because it's going to give that vanilla smell and it lasts for a really long time. And if that's not the direction that your formula is going in, you don't want to choose that. You want to choose something different. So it's learning all of your fixatives. I will give you a couple of fixatives that will not change the formula that much. They are, this is not an exhaustive list. I don't have 6 hours. This is just complicated. There's a lot to this. One would be Herculean D. That is not, it's a little warm, but it's not going to change your fragrance too much. Another one that won't change your fragrance too much, but it gives a little bit of warmth, and that's Isui Super. That's another one. But that is more of a, scratch that. I don't count that as a fixative. That's more of a blender, and it's not, I don't count that as a fixative, but it's a worker material. It does work, but let me see if I can give you another. Fixative 505. A little expensive, but it is the ambergris aroma. Some people, you're going to get it and you're going to be like, I spent all this money on that. I can't even smell it. It's a fixative and it lasts a good while. Let me pull it because I don't remember the exact number of how long it lasts. Hello. Where's my fixative 505? That's weird. It's usually right there. Let me see if I wrote it down. Oh, yeah, I wrote, this one is deceptive. It's very hard to smell yet. It's very powerful with ambergris and slightly woody character. It's very sensual, kind of a resin-ish thing going on. A little bit warm. Just lots of fixative properties, and use it at 3% or less, and it's going to give a little bit of warmth. And you're going to be like, what? If you get your fixative 505, I would bring it down to a 10%. It's very, very powerful. I'm not saying it's very, very strong smelling, because you're going to be like, what? I don't even, it's one of those weird materials. But if you do it down to a 10%, I'm telling you, oh, that's where it is, right here, because it's the bottom. I just did a 10% of it, and I use it all the time as a fixative, and it doesn't change the aroma of my fragrance much at all. And that was my original point, is giving you a list of materials that are fixatives that will not change the aroma that much. Fixatives says it's safe to use glucam up to 5%. Absolutely, it's safe. But if you use it up to 5%, make a formula and put 5% of it in there. I guarantee you it's going to be flat as a pancake. Take my word for it, or experiment, experiment. But I would use way less than 5%. I feel like, well, if I say 1%, I'm saying I wouldn't even use 1%, but maybe 0.5% for a formula, or at the most 1%. But yes, it is absolutely safe up to 5%. That's where those kinds of things can be deceptive, and I don't know what everybody out there knows, and so I'm not saying that you were saying that, or you weren't saying it, or you were, or whatever, but I kind of have to act like I don't know what everybody knows. So I just want to say that, yes, it's safe up to 5%, and I would not do that because it's going to flatten it out like a pancake, your entire formula at 5%. Let's see. So I'll tell you about one other that is a blender and a fixative both. And that is, I've talked about it before, and I cannot pronounce the word. Gurjun, Gurjun balsam. It is an oleo resin, so it's a resin, and it is warm but a light amber. It is not hardcore. It's a little bit nutty, has a tiny bit of a nuttiness to it. So if you're not looking for, and that will come through a little bit. So if you're not looking for a nuttiness, don't use this, but great with wood and with amber, and it's a great fixative. And you can use it up to 8%. Not strong at all. It has some warmth it's very light. And so to me, this is another one. Almost all fragrances you could put this in, and it's just a great blender. It's a little balsamic, and you're like, well, I thought you just said it was really, really light. It is really light, but it has a little bit of balsamicness to it, kind of like myrrh has a little bit of balsamicness in it, but acts a little bit more like a light frankincense. But instead of those two smells, has a little bit of a nuttiness, amber. It's just not strong at all, but a great fixative, and I really like it a lot. Jasmine, I've been good. Thank you. I don't know if you were on some of my last videos that I did. I did a series of them. I picked a day and I just did a bunch, which I'm doing today. And a little bit a while back, I lost my dog. And so I've been just kind of processing that and going through that kind of stuff. So, and I don't know why, but it was really hard to do this stuff when I lost him. I don't know why. I thought it would be the opposite, but it wasn't. And so I was just like, and I just didn't do this stuff for a while I was processing that loss and having that loss. So thank you for asking. I appreciate it. So that's what I have on. So there, again, there's no magic fix to longevity of a formula. You need to look at your objective with your formula. What is it? Is it, you know, a floral wood, but a darker wood, that kind of thing? Then that's how you pick your fixatives. And again, if you make your heavy molecule fixatives a huge portion of your formula, your whole formula is just going to be and just sit down there and not come out and bloom. It's just going to be harder for it to do that. So just have that in mind. And that might be how you want to do it. Because to me, the more fixatives you have, the more darker, heavier molecules, the more personal your aroma is going to be. That fragrance, you're wearing it for yourself. And a lot of times, that's the kind of fragrance I like to wear. I had not really thought about that. But a lot of the fragrances that I have chosen to make for me have been what I would call personal fragrances, and they're heavier and they stay with me rather than a fragrance that is floral and lighter and the people around me can smell that aroma. And then you have fragrances that have a lot of aldehydes, and that is just projecting, and you've in sillage and you've walked across the room in your business where you work, and 5 minutes later they know that you walked past because they still smell you. So it's looking at those kinds of things that will help your formula. So you have to look at your formula and what you're trying to create. So that's how you pick them. That's how you do that. So that is what I have for, and of course you could be like, oh my God, you didn't go over even barely any of the fixatives. I know this would last forever. It would be forever. So I'm just giving you some fixatives. But also the other thing that I just gave you is think about the formula that you are making. There are fixatives that fit that formula that don't fit other formulas that, you know, you can use for a very light projecting floral that you are going to not put in a heavy amber woody formula. So it's learning that. So again, I am going to do a series today. They're all going to be live. It's way easier for me to do that. And so after this video uploads, it hasn't been taking very long. So just like in 5 to 7 minutes from now, I'm going to do another one. It's going to be on a completely different subject. So all of these today, I have no clue how many I'm going to do, but they will all be on something completely different. So I appreciate you so much for being here. And if you would like to help me and support me some, even just in a little bitty way, that could be you checking that you like this or subscribing. Also, I have Patreon, and I give you things if you become a Patreon member, and that is at patreon.com/mountainaromatics. And the other thing you will see is that I've done some more photos stuff for like the video covers. Yeah, video covers. And so I've had fun with that. And so there'll be some new video covers that are out. So so again, this will absolutely not be my last video on fixatives because there's just so much to talk about with it. So, but I hope this was helpful. And I will see you on the next Mountain Aromatics. I love you guys. See you soon.